we shall open them up and we shall remember that there is always, as long as there are entrepreneurs like the honorees that you are going to meet tonight, there's always a cause for celebration.
Good to have friends.
Oh, right. So we will fill this up. And remember, there is always hope for you all. So, this is everyone. So, at this dramatic juncture, with everyone set, even Mark Riesman is sitting there. Oh, that's good. A little later, Mark's going to be giving us some dance tips on his tabletop, but we'll come to that. All right. As I said, lean back and prepare for hope. And prepare to be uplifted. A while ago, the American Civil Liberties Union founder, John Holmes, sort of glumly noted that humanity may come to a terrible, terrible end, not by anything the universe may do, but by what man may do to himself. So allow me a rebuttal, as I was saying, if we so choose, humanity may soar and thrive and stride right forth into Eden, not by the virtue of some indifferent universe, but by the creative, compassionate efforts of many individuals putting fiery enthusiasm behind their unabashed idealism. And this day, you are about to meet the magnificent 7 idealists who are lifting their torches and shedding light into our world. Dr. Andrea Bartoli, Bruce Boyd, Laura Doherty, Mr. Kehan, Reverend Kendrick Kemp, Roland Schatz, and John G. Thompson. They are the honorees selected for the Prometheus Social Enterprise Awards for 2020. Each one is an extraordinary individual who's witnessed some terrible predicament in our culture and our planet, and they have responded with an inventive enterprise that heals. Together, they are the high achievers, the select in the fastest growing sector in the business community, social entrepreneurs. Every enterprise is really a for-profit enterprise. It's strictly a matter of which currency your sweat chooses to bring forth. And for these admirable entrepreneurs, well, they're trading in the currency of human enrichment. And the good news that they are the leaders in a large, exponentially growing army of people who are contributing and blessing this world. 3 years ago, I'm sitting down with my good wife, Lorraine, and she's explaining this to me, and I'm listening, as I've always been taught to do, and I said, wait a minute. You're telling me that this guy takes unarmed, barehanded peacekeepers, he trains them and drops them into war zones to square off against armed soldiers, AK-47s and the like, and they stand up against these guys and convince them not to commit rape and pillage and attack on the civilians in the middle of a war? And she says, yes, her name is Mel Duncan. All I could think of is I have a few people I'd like to volunteer for that training, but it goes on. Then a serial CEO, Mark Nathan, comes up and he says, oh, yeah, I know that Ramona Braganza, she's a celebrity fitness trainer. She rescues victims of human trafficking, brings them up, and gives them jobs as fitness instructors and retrains them. And then Stephen Ward, global security specialist, says, oh, yeah, you got to meet Lisa Orloff. She quit her budding fashion career right with 9/11, and boom, she volunteers her way to handle the supply chain at Ground Zero and explodes this into the World Cares organization, which rescues refugees and rebuilds homes and individuals all around the globe. And so I'm sitting here and I meet Mel and Lisa and Ramona, and all of a sudden I realize, my God, they are all around us. The fire starters, These are the people who, well, they have some practically planned vision that solves the crisis that we need around us. And then Dale Caldwell, who is here today, he himself is a sort of a closet social entrepreneur, great contributor. He doesn't talk about it much, but he's also the energetic head of Fairleigh Dickinson University's Rothman Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Well, he took up our banner and joined us, and we partnered with them. So all of a sudden, here I am. I've spent four decades trotting my pen and curiosity around the globe, interviewing thousands of people. As CEO of Prometheus Publishing, I meet authors. As host of the Art of the CEO radio show, I meet fascinating people. But all of a sudden, I am meeting an entirely different kind of individual, someone with a more powerful vision and a more terrifying energy to contribute and heal than I've ever met before. And everyone on the staff said, we have to bring to light these unusual individuals. I mean, they are the role models that our children need to see. They are the ones that adults want to see succeed. And something else, they laugh a lot. They have a lot of fun, and that's good. So in 2019, we held our first Prometheus Awards, Social Enterprise Awards, and we held it at Fairleigh Dickinson's Hennessy Hall. And I've got to say, it was a night of palpable power in which hope gripped all of us. And we're going to repeat that. Now, that year, we set the tradition of making the honorees people who are what we call unsung, who are not previously touted by houses of faith or by media. And we also decided this year not to bypass various organizations and various individuals who had founded organizations to deal with COVID challenges. But even so, we had over 200 of nominees, and we narrowed it down to 24. We gave them to the judges, and they came up with the 7 individuals you'll meet tonight. And then the prior honorees came, and they started looking over the list. They said, these people are amazing. And as one of them put it, you can't make these people up. And there's also some other good news. And that is that social enterprise, the idea of contributing, businesses that contribute to society, have become wildly popular. There's an idealistic new generation coming in. They're older people who are saying to themselves, you know, there really is only so much shredded wheat you can eat. The old idea of amassing great amounts of cash and great amounts of stuff is like gorging on one food group. It just is not fulfilling. And so these people have started founding a movement in which the goal is rather to build, to create, and to make your mark as someone who has done some benefit to society. These are the folks who are saying, I would rather be the man who prevented a war than the man who won it. I would rather be the woman who fed and sheltered 5,000 refugees than the one who claimed power over them. These are the individuals we are calling the 2020 Prometheans. And I know I can just see some of you are going to say, who is this guy Prometheus? And why are we naming all these awards after him? Well, the short story is this. As you all remember from your Greek mythology studies, doubtless, the Prometheus was the Greek titan who crept into the Olympian forge, stole the gift of fire, gave it to mankind, and after that, there was no turning back for us. And now, to get the longer and far funnier version of Prometheus, you're going to have to tune into the Torchbearers Talk. The Torchbearer Talks video book. This is a marvelous free book which we've compiled for you, which gives each of the honorees in a more full, complete detail their vision, their story and the efforts from their organizations. You don't want to miss it. And if you really want to have a really thankful Thanksgiving, 6 p.m. Thanksgiving Day, turn in to Princeton TV, because they're putting the whole thing right out there for you. And just go to princetontv.org. And you can spell it correctly, as I did not in the invitation, but it's princeton.tv.org. And if you can't do it, then you will also find it on our own website, bartsbooks.com, bartsbooks.com. Just click on Prometheus Awards, and each honoree will be there to inspire and delight you. And so I think it's something that you really will all enjoy. And just one final tip: these honorees, these Prometheans that you meet, they're the ones that you want to be investing with. They're the ones that you want to get in on the ground floor with. And a final warning: do not underestimate these individuals and think that they are just do-gooders. They are not tree huggers. They are effective organizers who are planting 1 trillion trees across our planet. They have visions that might scare you and plans that seem impossible, but they are the ones that you really wish you had working on your team. In fact, they're the ones you wish you could be sometimes. And they're the people that your children will grow up and want to have as role models. Ladies and gentlemen, one iron-willed, ambitious person can climb the highest mountain, but one compassionate person, surrounded by all his supporters, can move it. So I invite you today to come now and encounter those folks who are moving mountains, our Prometheans, Social Enterprise Awards honorees. And I think the way we'll do this is we'll just sort of we have the awards here laid out, and each person may step through the screen and take his award. Failing that, I think perhaps maybe what would be a little bit better is that I will we'll give a brief, Dale and I will together we'll give sort of a brief description of each honoree, and then he will step up and give us a few minutes story about what he's doing and any acceptance remarks he wants to make. And I'm afraid you'll have to wait. We have a camel that's going around. Isn't that how it works? We have a camel that's going to be bringing the awards to you. And I want to see him get to Switzerland, but either that or we'll use the mail. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's move on. And our first honoree is Andrea Bartoli. Now, I've got to say, Andrea has made me ashamed, and he probably shames most of us, because the truth is that most of us don't really believe that we can end conflict within factions of nations or between nations. You know, what's the old saying? Dale, haven't you heard people say, "Oh yeah, we're going to have peace in the Middle East the day after I win the lottery"? What do you think, Dale? Do you think that most people really have given up on stopping conflict between nations?
Well, I think people are so self-focused that they're saying, when I make my billion, that's when I'm going to care about other things. So I mean, Andrea Bartoli this is an amazing, what they're doing is amazing. And so it's just an honor to have, to be able to present this award.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think you're right. And let me just, a little background on Andrea is that since age 13, Andrea has been saying, yes, we can have good, solid end of conflict at all levels of our society. And that was at age 13 was when he joined this little spiritual study club of about 25 people in Italy. By age 29, Andrea was called upon to peacefully resolve the warring conflicts between the forces trying to take power within the newly independent nation of Mozambique. And the spirituality club, called San Egidio, that's Italian for St. Giles, this has grown to 250,000 members. The Pope was so impressed with this lay group's effectiveness that he has given San Egidio Vatican support. And Andrea has also worked with the UN, the World Bank, the Global Action Against Mass Atrocity Crimes, scores of others. And he's carried the torch of peace from Norway and Poland to Guatemala and East Timor, you name it, he's been there. And currently, Andrea serves as the Dean of Diplomacy for the International Relations School at Seton Hall University. And now, Andrea has just formed the SE Foundation for Peace and Dialogue. And what he does is he shares these conflict resolution techniques worldwide. And all I can say is, heaven knows, Mr. Bartoli, whatever advice it is you're using, that you are passing on to end conflict between nations is something that we certainly could use an awful lot more of right now. So, Andrea, Andrea, we present you Prometheus Social Enterprise Award. You please step up and tell folks a little bit about yourself. I thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you tonight and accept this award from you and from you all. I think that the story that Bart shared with you is a story also of somebody who became American by coming here at 35 and learning to speak English and write in English in a New York Public Library. So there is an interesting little American piece to the story that really help us to see how enterprise sometimes is the gift of life to one another. I was given to the United States as a gift of Mozambique, and I'm from the United States now going around the world to convince countries not to be genocidal. I was at the beginning of this global action against mass atrocity crimes that Bart mentioned, and I just came back from Bangui, Central African Republic, because we see that countries have this choice to make of being genocidal and violent and repressive, or being actually open and inclusive and respectful of everyone. And I really feel that Sant'Egidio put in me this fire. For those of us Christians, you know that the fire is associated with Pentecost and the Spirit. And this idea that actually we can speak in languages and we can hear in languages. And we do believe that if there is a conflict, there is a voice that needs to be heard. If there is a conflict, somebody needs to step up and listen more carefully, needs to understand what the conflict is trying to say to all of us. So I go now country by country, like in Central African Republic, trying to make this shift from countries that have been prone to violence, prone to genocide, prone to mass violence, mass atrocities, to make sure that they become not only non-genocidal, but anti-genocidal and preventive. And I think that
Excellent.
this is all that we can all do together. You know, there is no doubt that in this country, there is so much tension and animosity, and we need to work again in this entrepreneurial ship of listening, of encountering. And I'm delighted to be tonight with you in this Prometheus Award. And I really feel that there is goodness in fire and friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. That's grand. That's wonderful. We really appreciate it. That's wonderful. A toast. Andrea, we are honored to have you here, sir. All right, here. And now, by the way, many of you Andrea is originally from Milan, and if you're a New Yorker, the difference is that when you go to Milan, you will go to a cafe and sit down where everyone is infinitely better dressed than you are, and they will spend an hour drinking the kind of coffee that you would gulp down in a mouthful in 2 seconds. So that's the difference, just to let you know. It's a slightly more civilized. As our second honoree, I am going to calling upon Bruce Boyd. So if you would step up, Bruce. And a little bit about Bruce, he's amazing, he really is. But I just keep thinking, geez, what's the matter with kids today? I mean, we keep giving them all kinds of stuff, and then we keep giving them plenty of advice about all the things they're doing wrong and how they can be more like us, and no matter. And we tell them why they're not good enough, and we keep giving this advice as long and loud as possible. I don't know. I'm ready to give up. Dale, do you think I'm doing it right?
Well, I think you're I think you're doing it right. But I have to say that Bruce was a friend a long time when I ran the village charter school. He is. I've seen his work firsthand, and this guy's amazing. So it's just a blessing to have him here, and what a great choice, and so many kids have benefited from his love, and so Bart, I congratulate you for honoring this great guy.
Well, thank you, Dale. I just to give you a little bit of a background about Bruce, if I were a 16-year-old boy in Trenton, New Jersey, Bruce Boyd would be probably the scariest figure I would ever encounter. He would meet me in the dark, depressed alley of my city circumstance, and he would grab me, and he would reach in, and he would make me pull out my deepest dreams, and then he'd rub my face in them, and then he'd hand me a knife to whittle down the obstacles and to cut them away, and then he'd make me prove myself to myself. That's scary for a youth. It's scary for anyone. But anyway, Bruce was the sort of man, he would teach me to be my own man and an exceptional individual. Now, Bruce, by the way, is generated from his own hard knocks experience in Trenton, New Jersey. He's modest because, as Dale said, he works with people and he's successful, not only because he has this desire to ignite the fire of opportunity behind each individual, but he has this innovative, intuitive ability for program development. And so that's really why it's no wonder why outfits like Building Our Youth Development and Reclaiming Our Boys and his other programs keep succeeding. And oh yeah, if you want to discover just one little reason everybody keeps flocking to the BYOD events, ask Bruce about his idea of a field trip. Bruce, it is our privilege to award you Prometheus Social Enterprise Award. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Reach right across the screen. Yes, sir. Oh.
Thank you so much. This is the second time I've gotten dressed up to go sit in my living room. I had to look up what Prometheus was, and it was just fitting because Prometheus was the light in dark spots and dark places. And that fire does two things: it lights up dark places, and then it also provides a warmth, right? And so I thought about it, and I said, yes, that's exactly what me and my team does. We go to the dark spots to bring the light, and then we fill it up with some warmth so that our young people understand that they matter, that it's all about them, and the power of belief in them is strong. And most times they just need to hear that. They just need to hear someone say, I believe in you. And it changes the demographics or the dynamics of one's perception of themselves, because if a total stranger can believe in them, why don't they believe in themselves? And you're right, Bart. We show them the power that's within all of them. When I thought about this, one of the songs that came to mind was a John Legend song, Shine. And I just want to read the opening of that, because it is what every young child is looking for. And it says, they wait to plead their case, unknown cast aside. I love to see their face. Can we spare the light? Are we afraid to see the prisoners of history? These beautiful minds trapped inside, bring them back to life. And that's what we do. We bring those beautiful minds back to life. Like that old movie called The Awakenings, right? So we awaken their inner self and we awaken their spirits, and they go on to not see life as a stereotype, but defy those stereotypes. And like you said, me, growing up in the projects, growing up in public housing, defied the stereotypes of what they said a Black boy growing up in a broken home could do and would do. And that's what it's all about. So often we look past so many young people and we say they're lost. And I just have one question. If they're lost, what part did we play in losing them? And if that is what we've done, hey, I'm raising my hand first to go back and find them and put them on the right path. And we're just asking everyone to join us in that, because our beautiful minds, those beautiful lives cannot be lost, because we're counting on them to make sure our history, our world is a better place. And thank you so much, Bart and staff and Dell, those kind words. And all those who tuned in today, my friends and family who's on, we thank you. I thank you. I love you guys. And again, thanks for thinking about Boyd in this process. And by the way, those trips are, we call ourselves the forensic scientists of history. So when we not just read something in the book, we actually go to those places. So we've taken young people and their families to Selma, Alabama, after watching the movie Selma and reading about Selma. We've taken those young people and their families to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We stepped into the courthouse in St. Louis to learn more about those who were fighting for their freedom. We've gone to the African burial ground in New York, right around the corner from the 911, which no one really knows about. So we've gone to those places in Kentucky, in Tennessee, in Arkansas, and we just take our young people all over the world, and that exposure opens their minds to the power of me. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Here, 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 here. All right. So then, Bruce, thank you.
Thank
By
you.
the way, as you know, Bruce is from Trenton, and for those of you who don't know, Trenton is the only state capital in the USA that is known for manufacturing something other than sailboat fuel. You think about that one for a second. Anyway, Dale, next up is Laura Doherty. And so I wanted to ask you, Dale, what did you do in your honeymoon? No, I don't want to ask you. Dale, where did you go on your honeymoon?
Well, I'm a single guy, so, I'm looking forward to a honeymoon.
Oh.
My girlfriend is sitting right next to me here, so you're putting me on the spot, so.
Oh, okay. Where would you go on a honeymoon? Whoa.
You didn't tell me you were going to ask that question, so I couldn't. So,
yeah. Yes, he's pleading innocence, right? Which is something I've never been able to do, and it's a lot more than I can say for me. Well, I'll tell you, my own honeymoon. I got to tell you that with this beautiful creature, I was spent in St. Thomas, and we had a little tent by the water where we'd snorkel, and I would climb up the tree and get coconuts, and rum was $1.50 a quart, and I don't remember much beyond that. But the Laura Doherty's idea of wedded bliss is to grab hubby's hand and to yank it off and jet off to a ranch in Kenya, Africa, and found a school for at-risk boys in Baltimore. I guess romance is where you find it when you come from particularly a group of dedicated teachers such as Laura has. It's been said that that education is a better defender against for liberty than any standing army, and if that's so, Miss Doherty is one of liberty's most vital creative protectors. As president and CEO of the Baltimore Curriculum Project, Laura serves as an academic turnaround specialist, taking failing schools that are truly failing their students and transforming them into enthusiastic temples of learning it's really a miracle that she's achieving here. And to do this, she reaches beyond the classrooms and includes the faculty, the entire school staff, the parents, the entire community, and brings them all aboard. And as a true entrepreneur, Laura will find the most proven, most effective teaching methods and custom tailor each of them to these students, these places, this time. And the result is classrooms filled with eager achievers. So, there is one thing I've heard, that the students who are graduating from the schools that Laura's turned around are actually going to college with the belief that college is something more than a resume punch and an avenue to a higher salary. This is something that's brand new to many Americans, alas. But at any rate, this is the sort of, they're finding success, and they find something that's more addictive than any street drug. So, Laura, thanks to you and to the Baltimore Curriculum Project, you are really engineering what every child needs and deserves. So for this, we present to you. We would like to award you with the Prometheus Social Enterprise Award for 2020. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Bart. That's a beautiful award. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And thank you for including me in this year's group of honorees. I love my work, and I love our school communities. And it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity to talk about them in such interesting company. Now, as Bart noted, BCP partners with existing school communities who want and need better outcomes for their students. I'm going to take exception, though, Bart, to one descriptor. They're not failing, because to really be failing would mean you've given up. And they're not giving up. And they come to us and ask, hey, would you be willing to work with our school and bring some of the tools that you found successful? So they are in need of support, and we can provide that. So we go into each community knowing that they have strengths and they have needs that are unique, but also knowing that we offer key pieces that all schools need to be successful. We understand that everybody who becomes a teacher wants to be successful. They want to be a leader of students and have joy in the classroom. Every principal wants to lead a positive, effective school. So where that's not happening, BCP can and does help. We get the full support of the staff, the parents, and our school district before we proceed. BCP began under the visionary leadership of Dr. Muriel Berkeley, who I believe is here. I'm so glad she's here, because I feel like I'm gonna take a saw and cut that trophy in half and give her half, because I wouldn't be here without her. But 25 years ago, she started BCP with the intent of providing teachers with the tools and support they need to teach every child to read well, without frustration and without shame. And we have done that now for over 25 years, probably tens of thousands of students. And we have expanded our scope significantly. We now operate 6 conversion charter schools, which need some explaining, and we serve over 3,000 students. We use something called restorative practices. Again, like Bruce said, I haven't come up with any of this. Between Muriel and me and our schools, we find the right tools. But we use restorative practices as a relationship building tool. Through daily circles, our teachers and our students build relationships with each other, so that when something goes wrong, we have restorative circles and we can repair any damage that's been done to the school community. We also use the community schools model, and that is a model where there's a full-time staff person devoted to families and reaching out to families, making sure that parents have whatever support they need to get their students to school ready to learn. So whether that's housing issues that are interfering, and homelessness sometimes, down to maybe they need an alarm clock because mom or dad has to leave early and aren't there to get the kids up. So all issues, large and small, can be helped with our community school coordinator. But at the heart of our success will always be effective instruction. And the foundation of our instruction is Zig Engelman's direct instruction programs, the effectiveness of which has been established time and time again over 50 years in hundreds of studies. And we use it, and we have used it for decades now because there's no better tool out there to get all students reading successfully. When students experience success in school, a whole host of positive effects ensue.
Great.
Mainly, the kids like school. The parents like the school that make their beloved children happy. Teachers feel like they are successful and making a difference, and they stay in the classroom, getting better and better. And this leads to confident, critical thinkers with a world of opportunity open to them. We are unique in the charter world in that we only operate conversion schools, which already serve a neighborhood zone. And while we have things we insist on, like direct instruction, restorative practices, and community schools, we also really respect and support the individuality of each of the communities that we come into. And that's one of the keys to our success is we don't have a cookie cutter approach, but we have some key pieces that are really important. And I'll just finish by saying there's a deep joy in leading an organization in whose work you can pour your whole heart into. And what started with a commitment by Muriel and the Baltimore Curriculum Project to a reading program has grown into a whole school model. Our first 25 years have been filled with hard challenges, really hard. I've cried myself to sleep many a night, and inspiring successes. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 25 years brings. So thank you again, Bart, for this honor. And thank you all for listening.
Congratulations.
That's great. Wonderful. I would just like to add, again, our congratulations to Laura and for all the work she's doing. For those of you who have read a lot about Elizabethan instruction, for instance, at the time of William Shakespeare, it was when he was in the classroom, the monks were writing, and this one's a quote, which I pulled out from teaching. It says, "It is a known fact that the human buttocks is the best possible organ to be employed when learning Latin." And I'm just glad that Laura seems to be able to brought it up and use the heart now. I think that's a little better. At any rate, moving on, the next individual coming up is someone that is an amazing person. And actually, let me bring one this way. All of you who are entrepreneurs or have some venture that you want to take forth, I beg you remember two names. First of all, the first one is Henry Ford, because before the world-changing, cash-generating, marvelously widely popular Model T, there came a Model A, then B, then C, then D, then E, all the way up through the close but no cigar Model S. And he made it, and he persisted. The second name I want you to remember is Mr. Key Han. He is really just an amazing individual because he has said, yes, we can have clean, renewable, cheaper energy. Yes, I said cheaper energy without all the pollution of fossil fuels and without the genocide of fracking. In other words, all it takes really is 30 years of genius and sweat. Now, I don't know, Dale, you're the entrepreneurial expert here. What does it take to keep an entrepreneur persisting and going on?
Well, it's a passion. It's a vision. It's a vision. It's entrepreneurs can see things that the rest of us can't see, and so they're working on things that seem hopeless, like new energy sources. Yet they persist because they know it's going to happen. And so Key Han is just another example of someone who sees what the rest of the world doesn't. You know, I forget which sculptor it was who said that you see a block of stone and all they have to do is chip away the wood, the stone, and you have your sculpture. And that's what entrepreneurs do.
Oh, wonderful. I think that ray of hopefulness, I think it gives all of the wives out here hope who are trying to retrain their husbands. But I have to say, like most revolutionary inventions, when you hear Key Han's idea, it's very simplicity is going to strike you, and what you're going to walk away thinking is, why hasn't anyone thought of this before? I mean, just imagine, instead of taking thousands and thousands of tons of costly concrete and surrounding water and fighting the flow of nature's rivers and seas, supposing you just submerged the turbine within the ocean or the stream and let the waters flow do the work for you. That would seem relatively simple. I mean, it's sort of about as simple as trading in the horse for a internal combustion engine. It's, as I say, 30 years of genius and sweat. But anyway, Mr. Kehan has brought this armchair vision into practical reality. And this is what's so exciting, because he now has his prototype set up, working actually in the Manitoba River. The investors are lining up, the utilities are lining up. He is the person who is going to make the change in this $8 trillion industry. And the ones who really seem to be most worried and upset are the oil barons. Those are those people who have the business flexibility of pig iron. And right about now, when they see what Key's doing, they're beginning to wish they were in the energy business instead of the oil business. So to the gentleman who is going to help us all breathe a little easier and much clearer air, Mr. Kehan. Key, would you step up and come to the floor? Hey.
Do you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Bart, do you hear me?
In so many ways, we can hear you. We cannot see you, but go ahead and talk to us, Key. Tell us about your invention.
Okay, sorry that I hear you, but I see you, but I can see you. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much for all the good words. To begin, I'd like to talk about my dream. My dream is harnessing river energy, you mentioned it, without building dams. Not needing dams, thousands of river turbines can be installed in one river. Can you imagine thousands of rivers? You can put thousands of river turbines in one river, and each one of them is generating clean baseload electricity. This is my dream. So, is my dream possible? Of course, my answer is yes. Be positive. My study indicates that power electronics based on transistors are not powerful enough to harness river energy. I invented mechanical building blocks called transgears. A transgear is an assembly of gears having three variables. Three variables are key words. You know, gears can handle high power, and transgears can handle powerful building blocks. Now, going back to grid power is constant. The variable river energy has to be converted to constant speed. We need a speed converter. Speed converters are controlling speed. For example, transmissions are speed converters. Transgear controlled speed converters are working like transmissions with cruise controls. The output speed is always constant. The speed converter output is constant. With a converted constant speed, constant power can be generated. One more thing to talk about is river. Rivers are flowing continuously. This is a continuous energy. With this continuous energy, we can convert that energy to baseload electricity. We do not need batteries. This is how powerful river energy can be harnessed with transgear controlled speed converters. Do you know how many rivers are there in the world? Thousands. No, tens of thousands. Can you imagine installing thousands of river turbines into each of thousands of rivers? We can generate unimaginable amount of clean baseload electricity. We can eliminate emission-producing coal generators, and generates nuclear reactors. We can power all the electric vehicles with clean electricity. Thousands of turbines in a river can create jobs. How
Great.
about clean energy for our children? This is my dream. Would you like to join me and turn my dream into our dreams? Thank you very much, Bob.
Oh, thank you. All right, Keith, that's wonderful. Great. Yeah. By the way, annyeonghaseyo.
안녕하세요.
I want you to, by the way, Ki Han sort of reminds me of a sign I saw on Human Resources Director's office once. It says, if you think, if you're smarter than God and you work like the devil, or you think you're close, please enter. I think that's sort of key. As a matter of fact, he has asked me to help him find some engineers for his staff. And he says, I believe in surrounding myself with people who are smarter than myself. The trouble is I haven't been able to find any yet. So there you have it. We do what we can. Moving on. Now we are coming up to, we're sweeping across the pond into Switzerland, and Roland Schatz. We're asking you to step forward. And a little bit about Roland. In the year 2000, the United Nations realized, no, we're not going to make it. In order for the human species to survive and thrive, we need to accomplish 15 Millennium Development Goals, creating clean air, clean water, reducing poverty, reducing hunger, and 11 more must accomplish goals by 2015. And everyone, all of the heads of state got behind it, and they all cheered, and they all wrote papers, and by 2015, nothing much had happened. So, or I should say they hadn't been accomplished. And so, so Roland Schatz comes along and says, well, we're going to take a new tack. And he undertook now 17 new but similar sustainable development goals, and he set out an achievable path that could be performed by 2030. Now, Dale, I've got to ask you, if you've got a guy who's trying to change the entire world, isn't there a time when an entrepreneur should know when to quit?
That's the nature of entrepreneurship, is resilience. Resilience is that word. You know, what happens is everybody has an idea. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has the resilience to go from one goal to another goal to another goal. So, so again, we have another superstar, and so we're just excited to bestow this honor on someone who's trying to change the world. It's fantastic.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. See, I knew that there'd be somebody should bring some intelligent up into this, because Roland is the 5th generation of fighting journalists, and at age 10, Roland stood in front of the East Berlin, the Great Wall in East Berlin, and told his father, "We got to tear that evil thing down." And his father turns to him and he says, just as you're saying, Dale, he said, "No, you have to work to get achievable goals, son." Well, Roland didn't listen, and he's not listening now, because he has formed the independent UN SDGI, the Sustainable Development Goals 2, and he is moving toward a second try and a 2030 victory. So can we plant 1 trillion trees across our planet? Can we actually end hunger? And can we end poverty in major cities across the globe? Can we actually have in whole metropolises going green? Well, Mr. Schatz is making the impossible achievable. So, Roland, to you, our many thanks from all of us, and we are behind you in your goals for a Prometheus Social Enterprise Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Let me take it on behalf of all of those you mentioned earlier on at the beginning. It is so fascinating to see how many people no matter where they are and which continent, there are so many people who are realizing that certain things need to be done, and nobody can stop them until they reach these goals. And what you told me about my father, that's true. I was 10 years old when I was accompanying my stepmother, moving from West Germany to East Germany, and I had to cross this border. And there were soldiers in machine guns separating me from my stepmother and asking what I would carry in my suitcase, because they were scared that we would carry books from the West to the East, because they were scared that certain ideas would be spread in East Germany. And when I came back from that trip and I shared this experience with my father, that was the moment when I said, can there be anything done? Because this wall is simply horrible, dividing families, dividing friends, and actually dividing a continent. And my father, who was editor-in-chief in the United States, and he was not allowed to join us on this travel because he was a journalist, he said, you need to define a goal which you can achieve. And back then in 1975, it was very clear that this wall would never vanish. Fast forward 14 years later, on November 9 in 1989, I was in East Berlin, and this wall came down. And I was lucky to be with friends already 4 years before, 5 years before, and we were together, all of us trying little bits. And to see at this stage of November 9th, 1989, that a revolution is possible in a peaceful way, that you get a wall down, not by using bombs or guns, but by walking simply, because we didn't do anything else. Every Monday we got together and we walked around the city center in Leipzig, in Halle, in Dresden, in these different cities, until the guys gave up. And I could go on and give you more background how it happened. And it happened more or less, I don't want to say by accident, but it was definitely not planned. And you know what? The people who were walking around these city centers in East Germany, they didn't want to give up on their country. All what they wanted, that things got a little bit better. And only because those in charge were not listening, and they were not even listening on that very night in November 9, 31 years ago, that was the reason why then this whole state of East Germany vanished and we reunited. So fast forward, when I was lucky to work with Kofi Annan, with Michael Müller and all the other great leaders within the United Nations, and I saw that Mr. Annan announced these Millennium Development Goals. He didn't do it because he was naive, but he did it for one very clear and good reason. He said, if we let the world reduce what we call the United Nations, all the shortcomings of the United Nations, corruption, not reaching goals we define or others define on our behalf, because at the end of the day, the UN is nothing else than a members organization. We are not doing good for those, and we are not giving honor to those who are work day by day, for instance, to vaccinate children in countries like Iran, who are able to increase education in other places. So that was the reason why Kofi announced these 15 MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, not because he thought they could be reachable by 2015, but he said we need to get started. And that is what impresses me the most. People who are starting not only to walk, but to walk their talk, knowing that they might not reach these goals, but they still continue walking. Like Martin Luther. Martin Luther, 500 years ago, said, here I stand, I can't do anything else, but this is what I want to bring to this world. So Kofi did this. And then Ban Ki-moon was brave enough in 2008 that he asked the member states, the heads of states, what are we going to do in 2016? Are we going to declare, okay, this was a nice try with the Millennium Development Goals and now we stop it, or what shall we do? And then each of these heads of states with their teams said, no, we should take the next level. We should try something what is called the Sustainable Development Goals. And they defined over the process of 6 years these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they added to almost each of these 17, 10 concrete targets. So all in all, we are now with a set of 169 targets. And these targets and the goals were agreed by 193 heads of states. No matter whether they were coming from a democratic country, whether they came from a dictatorship, no matter whether they're majority Muslims or whether they are Christians or whether they are agnostics, 193 heads of states have agreed to what is called SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, health for everybody. And I can go on, but I will not do that. When I heard about this, and when I saw that these 193 heads of states would accept these goals, not only as a declaration, but as a very concrete target, which should be reached latest by December 2030, I asked the Director General of the UN in Geneva, how about we set up a foundation to help provide data to measure progress? Because it's all what Bart said. We need not only light, we need lighthouses, which are inspiring people that we are able to do that. And when I listen to Laura, what she's doing in the schools, that's exactly SDG 4, giving hope to young people who would not be supported in their process of learning something. And we all remember our times in school, in university. It wasn't always that easy. And if we forget about those children who are challenged to learn something, what's wrong with us? In times like these with Corona, we forget about the senior citizens who are sitting somewhere in a pension home and we are telling them that we are not allowed to meet them. What's wrong with us? We need to do better. And that is why we set up the UNGSI Foundation. On one hand, to provide data, but more important, to illustrate and showcase in 25 cities and 5 indigenous communities that we are able to implement these 17 goals as fast as possible. Because we can't afford leaving those behind who are not as strong as our group tonight. There are people who need our help. So that is why we cooperate with everybody we can. We are happy that the Vatican is very much involved, that the YMCA is engaged, that soccer clubs like Real Madrid are realizing that if you have such a large group of followers, that you should offer them a little bit more than just your team winning once per week, but that you give them a hand to learn about purpose. And that's what Bart is mentioning when he said, we can do tree planting. Yes, the world needs 1 trillion trees. And this weekend we will have the G20 heads of states who will agree on the largest reforestation program ever. But this will never do the magic, because we need to break it down to the families, to the children in town, and we need to give them an idea what they can do to plant these trees. And we need to do it in a way that it's not just an alibi thing, which you do 2 hours on a Saturday, and then you continue with your normal work. We need to do it in a way that it triggers down to all of us that we have to change certain things. And that's what the 25+5 SDG program is about. We try to be as concrete, as inspirational as possible for all age groups to learn from each other. Because there's no one way to reach these SDGs. There will be 1,000 ways, as it was always said, there are 1,000 ways reaching Rome. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we meet in Rome. And that is what these heads of states have agreed. We have to reach these 17 SDGs, and it's now on us how we are doing that. And I can only invite all of you to join. There are very practical things, like in a year like 2020, where we have too many families who no longer know how to feed their families, their children tomorrow, next week. We need to get practical, helping them not only in regards to giving them food, but as well to create hope for them that they can get back to work, to earn money for their families, because that's from where everything starts. SDG 1, zero poverty. And the beauty is, if we all pick our brains and our hearts, you'll be aware that there are almost solutions for everything. When you listen to those who know the numbers, it's not a question whether the money is available to implement these 17 SDGs. It's more a question on how we work together. And that is what I love with Bart's work, that he is able to connect us. And looking back to last year, you had one award winner, Al Berkeley. And guess what? He took some of our data, created an SDG fund. And if you would have been invested in that fund, the cumulative return on a fund where you only invest in those companies who are committed to the SDGs, your return over the last 3 years would have been 44%. Not bad, right? So let's get together. Let's do these things together, and let's make sure that those who are sitting on fences and doing nothing else than just criticize those few who get their hands dirty, that we kick a little bit stronger against these fences so these critics all fall down in the sand and they start getting their hands dirty as well. Because that's what we can do. Nothing more, but nothing less. Thank you. Back to you, Bart.
Thank you. All right.
Congratulations.
Here. Congratulations. Roland. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Roland. Roland, by the way, comes from Zurich, Switzerland, which is the country that it's really the planetary capital of furtive banking. And so I must admit, Roland, I was a little bit shocked, a little bit leery when you said, boy, have I got a credit card for you. But coming out of Switzerland, but I can just say, go to the Torchberry stocks, and you will find something totally different than the credit card that we're used to. The ones we're used to is one that the great Elizabeth Warren said, credit cards are like snakes. Handle them long enough and one of them is bound to bite you. Well, this is one that won't bite you. So I just recommend that to you. Our next person, I'm not sure, is Lorraine. Did John Thompson?
No.
No, okay.
In the chat, it said there was a medical emergency.
Yeah. Yeah, I want you to all know that John Thompson, yesterday, I got a call, and John said, in about 2 minutes, I'm going into surgery, or what in medicine currently euphemizes as a procedure. And he just wanted to know that he wanted to be here. He cannot, and I would hope that we will all keep John in our prayers as someone who has done so much for so many. And I'd like to just tell you a little bit about John, and then and so you can get an idea of this amazing gentleman. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask, I'm going to turn back to Dale and say, so Dale, let me give you a scenario. Now, this is your boyhood. You tell me what you do. You are a low-income black boy in Yonkers who has just received an envelope that says you have received a scholarship to the Juilliard School of Music. Your parents are so pleased they don't know which relative to brag to first. What would you do?
Well, having grown up in Harlem and Roxbury and Boston, and so often, so many young people will have some opportunities, but they don't have anyone to tell them how wonderful those opportunities are. And so Juilliard, Juilliard is way out in the ether, and someone down the street is making money doing some other things. And so it takes a strong will, and it takes intervention like our award winner to really help us understand the value of that proposition. And that so often we assume that everybody would take the college scholarship, but they don't know why am I going to go 4 years to college? So it's a great question, not an easy answer though. So that's why we need these kind of superheroes that we're celebrating tonight.
Wow, thank you, Dale. He's amazing. Well, I'm going to tell you what John did. This is what John Thompson was, a man with a mission. So instead of going off to Juilliard, he packed up his tuba and he joined the Salvation Army. Now, within it, there was a reason for this. He had the kind of leadership of people telling him what was right and what opportunities were available. And so within a year, John ended up heading the South Philadelphia sector of the Salvation Army at age 21. And then he returned to Yonkers as a project leader for the Yonkers YMCA. And what he witnessed was his hometown crumbling under the devastation of gun violence. And when 27 shootings had killed people in 26 days, John said, this is enough. He took action. He he went to Chicago, got some ideas, and founded something called SNUG, which is guns spelled backwards, guns in reverse. And he dug in and he started forging relationships with the gangs and with the fellows who were shooting, the shooters themselves, the people of violence. And in a multifaceted effort, which he explains in the Torchbearer Talks, he just built alliances throughout the entire community and turned it around. And the result is that gun violence in Yonkers dropped 86%. And it's an amazing record. And so if you want to hear some truly revealing stories about John, you can also ask him about his twin brother and the 21-year-old son he adopted of late. And so John is not here, but I would like to read you, if I may, his favorite quote, which is from William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army. And it says, "As long as women weep, as they do now, I will fight. As long as little children go hungry, as they do now, I will fight. As long as men go in and out of prison, in and out, as they do now, I will fight. When there is one drunkard left, and while there is one woman lost in the streets, while there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I will fight. I will fight." And that is John Thompson. And I hope we will all keep him in our prayers. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Now, every once in a while, John, by the way, is from Yonkers, as I said. I was born in Yonkers, and actually, I was born there. I left, John came in, and Yonkers became a lovely city. So I guess there's something to be said for that. Every once in a while, not too often, you meet a fellow who just doesn't fit into any of the marvelous categories that you have all laid out. Such a guy is Kendrick Kemp. And yet they're so powerful you can't ignore them. And Kendrick isn't actually a social entrepreneur, but he holds a model of courage and that, well, we're privileged to just uphold and understand. Dale, you were, as I understand it, you were an athlete in your high school years?
Well, I like to think I still am. I play competitive tennis, so
All right.
I'm not that old yet, so I still am, but I was in high school, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, so you rose up, and you know that with that comes a certain bit of prestige and so forth, and you're on. And for some people, it's on their way academically. Well, all of a sudden, imagine at age, everything is going fine. Then at age 20, bam, you get hit by a stroke, and you start clawing your way back. You do the exercises, and 2 years later, bam, you're hit with another stroke. It just seems almost impossible, and firsthand, Kendrick began to witness something. In this very close community, he witnessed how people who are disabled turn into wallpaper, and they're just forgotten by part of society. And he realized that the solution of this was not to reach out to charity and make people charitably understand. He realized that the change had to come from within. Right. It had to come from within. And so talking with and discoursing with the best, he undertook a great course of religious study, and he developed something called the theology for Black and disabled, which he now shares diligently with others who are making this same tough journey. And he lectures to small groups and lets he lets the light of his own discoveries so shine before men and women who are facing something this so difficult, and gives them a pathway of hope that most of them have not seen in years. So, ladies and gentlemen, to honorable mention, we would like to honorably mention Kendrick Kemp. Kendrick, would you please step forward?
Congratulations.
All right. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson, to Mr. Jackson and Firestarter Award, my fellow honorees and guests, thank you for giving me this award. I'm indeed grateful and honored to receive it. I started my work around Black liberation theology of disabilities because my life changed dramatically at the age of 20 years old. I suffered 2 strokes. They left me paralyzed. I couldn't walk or talk. Before then, I was all state in my hometown. I won the all states in basketball, all county in football, and sectionals in track. Up until then, I was riding on a magic carpet. And then it was like someone snapped it from me. I fell on my face. I thought life was done. I remember the doctors saying to my mother and me, I won't be able to walk or talk again. My mother stood by beside me and told me it'll be all right. I didn't know what all right was, but I really believed in my mother. Weeks went by. I really relied on my family, my church family, and my friends. It was still hard to ask for help. During this month-long start of recovery in the hospitals, I prayed to God daily, even hourly. It was a time that I was wrestling with God. I asked God if you would help me to walk atop again, I'll go anywhere you send me. So I've been on this mission of Black liberation theology of disabilities for over 30 years, preaching, lecturing, and presentations about what it means to be Black and living with a disability. Thank you for being a witness to my calling in my ministry in the world. And it was two key people that really helped me start this Black liberation theology of disabilities. It was late Dr. James Cone, the father of Black liberation theology, and Dr. Cornel West at Union Theological Seminary. I'm both humbled and proud to accept this award. Again, thank you, Mr. Jackson, and your team, and the other honorees for having me be a part of this special day.
Congratulations.
All right, Cornel, thank you so much. Woo. So, a toast to this incredible gentleman. All right, Kendrick. Oh, and a toast to all our honorees. But I think to sort of give a wrap up and some understanding, there's one business sage that I would like to call upon, and that's you've heard bits of his wisdom, overcoming the rest of the palaver from the host, and that is I'd like to have Dale Caldwell talk a little bit about social entrepreneurism, and I just want you all to know that Dale's an amazing guy. He's the person that you call upon when you need both a scholar's perspective and an entrepreneur's experience, at the same time, some sort of common sense compassion, all pulled into one set of advice. He's the author of Intelligent Influence, which is a book everyone who wants to be a leader should read. He is, as we've mentioned, he is the executive director of the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and during which time he has raised family business to its really proper place in the world of commerce and industry. He's every other inch a gentleman, and he's just a fine, upstanding guy and we're so glad that he is partnering with us for the Prometheus Awards. So, and by the way, he has founded the Dale Caldwell Foundation. But if you really want to catch the fire of Dale's enthusiasm, ask him about the new foundation he is starting in the name of his civil rights warrior father. Ask him about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Dale Caldwell.
Bart, thank you. I mean, this is. I mean, I'm so humbled. I feel unqualified to be the one of the last speakers. But first, I want to congratulate all of these honorees. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing in this world to make this world so much better. And I wish we could clone these honorees so that we could, right now we're talking about issues around the world. We're dealing with the issues as a result of an election, that we have more than 70 million people on either side who are at odds. And so some of the skills of the people here are needed to kind of bring this country and other countries together. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I call inclusive thought leadership. I'm doing a lot because of the George Floyd murder. I'm doing a lot of speaking around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I take it to kind of another level, that it's not just about black and white and gay and straight and men and women and international. It's really about a way of thinking. And that one of the things that's common to all of the people who are receiving an award is not only the vision that they have, the persistence that they have, the resilience that they have, but it's this idea of the inclusive thought leadership. Everybody who spoke, and having read the bios, has been very open to new ideas. So often in society, we think people that are entrepreneurs have their own idea, don't listen to anybody, and just work hard and pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Well, then nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is the true entrepreneurs are those that listen and learn from other people. The true entrepreneurs are those that seek out people that are smarter than they are. The true entrepreneurs have a heart to make a difference in the world. And so one of the things that I think is so very important at this time in our history, this time in our history, is that we have allowed folks who are not social entrepreneurs, folks who are not entrepreneurs, to really dictate the perception of the world. That we have people in every country of the world who are out there focused on take care of number one. You're not successful unless you are better than everybody else. You're not successful unless you are richer than everybody else. You're not successful unless you have a bigger house than everybody else. And the reality is the world cannot sustain itself that way. Countries cannot sustain themselves. Countries need these social entrepreneurs to really be to achieve the greatness that is within each of the countries. And one of the things that I love about all of the folks here is how they really celebrate the average person. And the average person in the world is an extraordinarily compassionate, sensitive person. And so as you look at that, but every one of us is dealing with challenges. Every one of us has hurdles to overcome. Some of those hurdles are higher than others. But it's important for us to understand that we are a family. We're a family of compassionate people. We're a family of people who care. We're a family of people who have been given gifts from God that want to use them for other people. And so what is most important about these social enterprise awards is that, one, we're celebrating wonderful people, but we want to inspire other people. One of the things that I feel a passion for is a voice for the voiceless. And there are too many voiceless people. And every one of the honorees today is a voice for the voiceless, a voice for people who don't think that they're as good, a voice for people who really are quiet in a room, a voice for people who won't follow their dreams. And so as we do this, and Bart, I mean, these things really need to be televised to a broader audience, a global audience, to let people know that no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, no matter who your parents are, that you actually can succeed, not in succeeding just for yourself, but succeeding by opening doors of opportunity for others. So it's an honor to have all of you here. I want to thank the audience, those that didn't receive an award, that took time out of their life to come here. And this will continue to get better. I can't wait for next year. I can't wait to see more and more nominations, but I want to thank you all, and good luck in doing what you're doing, and continue to inspire people in every corner of the world. So thank you very, very much.
All right. Yes, thank you, Dale. And a toast to Dale and all the honorees, and may there be, as Dale has said, many more. Okay. There's a couple of people, before we get to the questions, a couple of people I quickly want to introduce. We've had several people come up as sponsors, and one of them is a fellow by the name of Brian Todd. I see him sitting right there. Brian Todd and Associates. Well, Brian is for 30 years was head of the Food Institute. He is, without argument, the most knowledgeable person on the food industry from farm to fork around. Period. That's all it is. Brian was the man that taught me that a shot in a beer was a cordial, to show you that fine, elegant taste that he has, and many other things that he has dragged me through. But Brian is one of the sponsors, which goes to show that these are not seven reeds shaking in the wind. There are many companies that have put themselves behind it, of which Brian is one of our sponsors. Brian, tell us a little bit about, just to give us a couple of a couple of sentences sketch about Brian Todd and Associates and what you're doing.
Sure. Actually, as you mentioned, after almost 40 years at the Food Institute, I stepped away earlier this year and started Brian Todd and Associates, which basically helping companies right now, mostly entrepreneurial companies, startups looking to get into the food industry, kind of using my experience, mentoring them, walking them through exactly what is happening in the food industry. And for anyone starting a business this year, it certainly was a trying time, but yet there are many out there who are doing it. And, seeing the honorees here tonight, it kind of brings that to mind about there are so many people out there striving to reach their goals financially and socially. And, as I move ahead, hopefully for the next few years, continue to help these companies and be there as a source of mentoring and support as they move ahead. And again, I thank you, Bart, for and Dale for the Prometheus Awards and for all of the honorees. It's just unbelievable to hear them speak about what they do, and puts my whole life in perspective, as it does, I'm sure, everyone else's.
Thank you, Brian. That's great. That's great. Is Mark Riesman around? Mark, somewhere? Well, Mark is another one of our sponsors, and he with Angela Zappala work with to guide people on finance. And one of the things that he has always said is that he tries to make people use common sense in investing. And I know that seems a bit like an oxymoron, but Mark, if you just look up, you'll see in the sponsors list. I suggest you turn your financial needs over to for that kind of guidance. We also have a couple of past honorees. I see Mel Duncan trying to hide over there. Mel was one of the first ones I talked about in the past honorees. He runs a nonviolent peace force. Mel, how's the nonviolent peace force going?
Well, we're doing well, which is a sad statement, because there's so much violence in our world today, and indeed in our nation. We started, we've been working in places like Iraq and South Sudan, and early this summer we started a new program in Minneapolis. And we're seeing that the violence that is in so many places is also in our neighborhoods here in the United States. So I'm here because I wanted the energy from the people who spoke today, and the fire that Prometheus stole for us. Teilhard de Chardin, one of my guiding theologians, once said something like, when we have learned to harness love, humankind will have rediscovered fire. And I think that that's what's happening here today. We are rediscovering fire. And so I needed to be here, so thank you.
Thank you, Mel. That's great. It's very much appreciated. I understand also that, believe it or not, Al Berkeley is here. Al, are you lurking around somewhere? Al? Al?
That's not Al.
I'm afraid, I don't know. He is to be forgiven. He is moving. This is the very day he is moving from the house he's lived in for, I think, 317 years, the first or whatever. It just seems that way. With his wife Muriel, and this is the day they're moving. He says he'd try to make it, so I thought he was here. All right, let me see. I think now. I don't think there's any other previous honorees remaining, but at this dramatic juncture, I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts, comments, or something that they would, or questions that they would like to address to any of our honorees. Lorraine, do you have some questions there? If not, we'll take them from the floor. Is there anyone who had something that they would like to ask one of the honorees? This is a great thing about Zoom. You can do this. I mean, if you'd like to ask, for instance, Bruce Boyd where he gets his ties, things like that. It's or you may want to ask Andrea Bartoli why in heaven's name he had to run over all the way to the Central African Republic to solve the problems of an election when he didn't even have to leave town. But anyway, no. Is there anyone who had a comment? Oh, here's Carol. Carol, what did you have to say?
I'll ask a question. For all of the children, since we're talking about education and reading and helping in families and communities, how is there anything that can be done to help these children get internet and laptops so that they can continue working from home?
I don't know. Bruce? Well, let's start with Bruce Boyd. Any ideas?
Well, from what I've heard, many of the school districts have provided laptops and hotspots for young people to close that digital divide. So I haven't heard much more since when school first closed. It was a problem, but when they start going back into school in September, those issues were addressed.
Good. Good to hear.
Laura, what is your thought? Do we need more internet? Is that a necessary tool, and how would we get it if it is necessary?
Well, I agree with Bruce, because in the spring it was a real issue, and schools scrambled to pass out what equipment they had. But even if they had computers, that didn't mean our families had internet access. And what this has really exposed is just this grotesque divide between families who have internet access and those who don't, because even to apply to get help or benefits, you need internet. Everything went online, and we had just a tremendously large portion of our families who did not have access to the internet, and libraries closed, and every place that they used to go get internet closed. And so everybody scrambled a lot over the summer to provide both devices and hotspots to our families. And it's much better this fall in Baltimore. Pretty much any family who went out to get a device and a hotspot were able to do so. Some work better than others. It kind of depends on what area you are in. And I hear that in rural America, it's tough because even hotspots don't always work where there's not very good cell coverage. So it's better than the spring, but not ideal. I've been on plenty of classrooms where, watching the kids get instruction where kids are kind of coming in and out. The audio's not that good. But it is definitely better than being disconnected where kids were working from packets.
Thank you. That's great. Andrea, are you around, Andrea? There we are, right there. I have a question for you. I have to ask you. So you're sitting down now between two warring, conflicting parties. Each one wants to take over Mozambique or the Central African Republic or the U.S. And these are political factions with a great deal of stake. So you sit down, and what do you say to these people to first sort of bring them to the table? I'm curious. What would you say?
Oh, do you want that? Do you like it?
I think that the first thing is actually not to say anything, is actually just listening. It's by far more important. It's actually a blessing if I'm able to meet anybody, because what happened in conflict, and we recognize that very vividly in our own life. If you have a traumatic experience with anybody, the last things you want is to be in the same room with that person. You don't want to meet that person. The physical presence of somebody is actually hurtful to you. So when I encounter anybody who is in a situation of conflict, I know already that they come from a place of pain, even when they are powerful. And in certain cases, especially when they come in a situation of power, because there is an extraordinary threat that comes from a position of power. Especially when the power is authoritarian, when the power is violent, the same way that power was acquired can be taken away from you. So unless you are in an environment in which you are protected by your community, the very fact that they accept to speak with me, it's a sign of vulnerability, and you need to honor and respect that, and try to capture these openings, these possibilities, these moments that are in the presence. They are always there. You know, the peace is always possible, and the question is, you need to be able to listen and be as, you know, cunning as a serpent and simple as an interesting balance of being present and welcoming, but at the same time accompanying. And peace never comes against. This is also very interesting. You know, peace cannot come against. Peace comes in calling very, very often to very serious repentance. You need to change dramatically. There are a lot of things that needs to change for peace to happen. Be allowed in the room, be allowed in the space. And for a lot of people, it's hard. It's very difficult to accept the responsibility of what they did, to accept the pain that they inflicted on others. It's hard. So, you know, think about listening before speaking.
Oh, thank you. You know, you remind me of something that was said, Andrea, and I must bring this up. You notice I fell right into the trap that I said, what would you say to these people? And it reminds me of something Michael Moore turned to Jerry Garcia. He says, you're a famed rock star and you have all the youth who will listen to you. And he says, what would you say to the young people of today facing Columbine and so forth? And he said just what you said, Andrea. He says, I wouldn't say anything. I would listen. I would ask them the way they felt. So there you go. Roland, yes.
I would like to get back to Carol's question, because when we think back when it started with COVID, this is 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Within 8 months, Silicon Valley, those who are claiming themselves of doing social media, who were loud for decades, we didn't hear that much of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Although in a time where social distancing seems to be the only answer, you would expect that social media at least be able to do something to bridge the gap. I'm just a little boy from Ostwestfalen, where you do not even know where that is. So I only can do simple. But if I read the newspapers correct, and if I follow how much money Jeff Bezos made in these last 8 months, I think that's about the amount which is necessary to provide each of these 50 million children in America who don't have a notebook and who don't have access to the internet to simply fix this. I'm not an American, you are the Americans. But I think it's time to stand up and ask the right questions to the guys in Silicon Valley who think that they have solutions for the world. But they could do that. They could do it basically out of their pocket money. But they prefer sitting somewhere and counting their money I don't know what they're doing,
Yeah.
but they made over the last 8 months enough money to not only fix the problem Carol is pointing out to, but they could have done as well much better. Think about all these people who still didn't go and vote 3 weeks ago. 140 million who should have gone were still under the impression that their voice is not even heard.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I agree
So
more.
maybe you can do something in your country to get back to the leadership you have been holding for decades.
Yeah, the school systems are not equipped to bridge the digital divide, and yet they are doing it out of their budgets that aren't sufficient anyway. They're still doing it, and it should not be up to them. I couldn't agree more, Roland.
Dale, to a very large extent, family businesses have worked well. Perhaps some of the large businesses have not. Family businesses have indeed taken over this this task of pitching in to levels on a community at a community level. Is that not so?
Yeah, well, you know, family businesses are 84% of the businesses in the world. People don't realize, and the more I do a show, Family Business World, and the more I talk to family businesses, I realize that the best places to work in the world are not governments, are not nonprofits, are not big business. It's really small family businesses, because they not only treat their employees like family, they give back to the community at much higher rates. They're willing to take chances on people that other places won't take a chance on them. And so we have become so passionate about family businesses as a way to really make significant social change. So family businesses are really an underutilized asset in the world.
I mean, what? I'm sorry?
What'd you say?
I said, we just had a tech problem. Forgive me, I'm terribly sorry. You asked a question, I didn't quite catch it. Thank you. Jeez. Well, I think, is there anyone who has a question that we're missing? Because we don't want to leave anyone out. Val, you got any thoughts, or anyone else that you have any questions that they want to ask of these honorees while we have that privilege? Right here. Thank you. All right.
Yes, Bart.
Yes,
What are your inspirations for next year's potentials?
Oh, well, I had a feeling I'd get nailed this. We are going to continue this, and actually, since you happen to bring it up, there are two publishing companies that have asked me to write up some biographies about Prometheus, about social entrepreneurs and what they're doing. But we will probably be going ahead with that. We're going to be looking into that. But much more important, we are going to. So that's one more way of bringing them to light. But much more important, we are going to have the awards next year. Thank you very much, Val. We are ongoing. We do not close down. First of all, you will be able to hear each one of these honorees give a talk on our as a guest. They're coming on the Art of the CEO radio show, so visit theartoftheceo.com and you can hear them. And we are always, if any of you knows of somebody that you think would be a worthy candidate, please contact. It's real simple. info@bartsbooks.com, info@bartsbooks.com. And we gather these people all year long, and we celebrate them all year long. And so I hope that you will all keep your eyes out for the new generation that is coming along. And there are many, many of them. And I'm sure I hope that all of you will be as astounded as I've been to have the privilege to help see them, find them, and again, dust off your optimism. As we've seen tonight, there's an awful lot of hope here. So,
hey Bart, I just want to offer up to Laura and Kendrick and anybody who is working with boys ages 9 to 18. We have gone virtual, and we have started a Boys Will Be Boys series that we get speakers, men all over the country, talking about Silicon Valley. We have one that's going to be coming up that worked on a black guy who worked in Silicon Valley, who's working with some amazing people. Many of our guests are from Trenton or came from Trenton, and they live all over the country now. It's free. It's hope, it's inspiration, it's opportunity. These guys worked in some of the top Fortune 500 companies. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing a whole lot of great things. Just like me on Facebook, or just I'll leave in the chat my email address. Email me, and I will send you guys the links to the Zooms. We are also starting a Come On Home. That's what we labeled it for the girls. We have some fantastic women that are going to be speaking as well and mentoring just for those urban and rural area, but it's open to anyone actually. But, you know, they just need a little bit more upliftment to see that there are people that came from inner cities and rural areas that have gone on to do some fantastic things. So the Come On Home series is coming up, but Boys Will Be Boys. We have one on 6 p.m. November 30th, and this was a guy, we called it From Trenton to the Pentagon, and cybersecurity. So he's going to be speaking as an hour-and-a-half series, question and answers and talking. So if you're interested, I'll leave my email in the chat as we speak, and it's open to boys ages 9 and up. Men are all welcome, but it's definitely just for boys and men.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I meant to ask you if you were interested in Baltimore, and I guess in this virtual world, you are.
Yes, I am definitely interested in Baltimore.
Yes. Okay, I think just quickly, let's go around. Laura, if you want to help with the curriculum, the Baltimore Curriculum Project, if you want to roll up your sleeves or you want to open your wallet, how can we get, what's the best way to do it?
You can just Google the Baltimore Curriculum Project. I think it's www.baltimorecp.org. And there's a donate button if you want to donate. So it makes it real easy. And my email, I'll put in the chat. And if you want to ask questions or just talk to me about anything about the reading program we use or about restorative practices or the community school model, I would be delighted to answer any questions.
All right, excellent. Roland, you have a credit card. I shouldn't ask you, I don't know if you can do it quickly, but how can people get in touch and support UNSDG and also your Concerts for the Poor? How can they get in touch and help?
Well, I can put my email as well in the chat. The card you are nicely mentioning, this is how the card is looking. It's not a credit card, it's a debit card, because we have so many people who are still unbankable. And when we do the tree planting, the whole concept is basically for every tree they are planting, we are chipping this tree so you can follow how these trees are growing. And each year when these trees, their leaves are creating carbon credit, we are working with a stock exchange in Stuttgart. So the people will get remunerated for all the trees they are planting in the years to come. And that is one of my big dreams, that we can convince Pope Francis that he makes it a standard, for instance, for all the Catholics, that before Nikolaus or before December 6th, you should have planted every year 50 trees with your families, as I do with my daughters. And from these 50 trees every year, then your kids get carbon credits on their cards. And when they leave school, they have something to start their lives with. But at the same time, they know they did something for climate.
And it's nice to think about
planting
trees rather than cutting trees. It's nice to switch from one to the other.
Yeah.
Yes. Andrea, how can people, if they want to learn from you, or they want to support you in some way, how can they get a hold? Will you put your email in the chat, or how will you do?
I did put my email on the chat, and happy to connect with anybody.
All right. This is wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have had, this for me has been one of the most hopeful evenings I've had in over a year. I can honestly say that. I thank all the honorees. And again, we got a
Bart, hello, Bart.
What's that?
Or can I just mention that we've put their information, their bios, their pictures on the website, Bart's Books, Prometheus Awards. And if there's anything else that you'd like us to add, we'd be glad to do that for you.
Wonderful. Okay. I think, yes, so you can go to the website, and if also, I would think if you're really in need of money and you have a little, take a look at Key Han's investment. That's something you may want to get behind, because frankly, that's the kind of energy we could all use. That's almost as strong as the energy I felt here tonight. So may the fire of Prometheus burn in each and every one of you. Yes, Roland? Right.
No, I wanted to say bye-bye because it's
thank you
far
all.
behind
That's
midnight.
very late for you. God bless you. God bless.
Good evening.
Thank you, Roland.
Bye-bye.